Hey, everybody, welcome to another conversation. What happens in this room is magical. But I want to talk for a minute about what happens even before we get into this room. Because I don't know if you believe this or not, but I want to just lob this over the net for you as a listener to see what you feel. From the moment this woman signed up to come into this room, I felt her. And I could feel the resonance between us. And we had a little bit of, back and forth conversation. I think it was on LinkedIn. And
Right.
I just loved the way her mind thought. And I loved the how resonant we were without even knowing each other. Now, I think you're in India, is that correct?
Yes, I'm based in Delhi.
And she's based in Delhi. I'm in San Diego. She's an attractive young woman. I'm an old guy in California. She has color to her skin. I'm a white boy. There aren't really many reasons why in a day-to-day normal world we would meet. And yet here we sit. And what's even more than that is without even knowing what we actually believe, because we haven't really spoken to each other, we haven't done anything except a few little text messages on LinkedIn. Um, there is a real resonance, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation because I really want to see what she believes. So again, I know nothing about her, and that's what this conversation's about. So I'm looking forward to having this time with her to introduce you to her and introduce me to her. Her name is Sukun Chopra. Sukun, welcome to 50 Conversations with 50
Thank you so much,
Strangers.
Daniel. I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for having me.
It,
Really
it is
appreciate it.
it is such an honor. Um, First of all, tell me if you relate to what I said to you. Did you feel that same resonance even before we started speaking?
Absolutely. I think there was just natural warmth in the conversation, or even over chat, which is not often sensed when you have a message, transactional message, over text or over like online, but it felt very natural. And I think end of the day, we are energetic beings, and I guess you sense some energy that also I sense. So I was like, why not go for this? Just do it.
Love
Let's
it.
just go with the flow, because that's how I roll anyway. I just go with the flow with everything in my life.
Love it. Love it. So, how are you? How are you? How are
I'm
you?
good.
Like, I mean, I don't know what it's like in Delhi, but you're in Delhi, right? You said it, and
Yeah, I'm in Delhi. I've been a bit tired today, just like a bit of woke up feeling a bit groggy because of just like late nights and stuff. But otherwise, I'm doing pretty well. In Delhi, things are the way they are, but we're staying in a bubble. Like we live in a farmhouse, so it's pretty safe where we stay. It's like being in paradise. So yeah, just being staying safe here.
so so often that question gets asked and answered very quickly and moves on to the next thing. But we're in the midst of a global pandemic. I just read
Yeah.
something like India had its highest um, cases of
Number.
coronavirus reported, like 83,000, not,
Yeah.
just, a few. Um, we're in the midst of at least in America, but I think America is sort of reflective of what's happening in the world, of a civil rights movement where
Right.
people are of color are starting to stand up and say, hey, we're real people here and our voice matters and we matter. We are a couple years into a Me Too movement where women are standing up and saying, you can't really treat us like that anymore. I know that's the way you grew up and that's the way you think you could get away with it, but we're not going to stand for it anymore. How are you
Absolutely.
in light of all of those things that are just cast? And those are just big overarching issues. How are you in light of all that?
I'm quite optimistic about this future because there's just been like so much change on multiple levels this year. I think people have finally reconnected with themselves, and it's like a revolution on so many levels, like what's happening in the States. That speaks for itself. This on a personal level, people are like, I think, slowing down and revisiting their way of doing things and living life, which hasn't ever been thought traditionally, because we haven't got a chance to think about these things traditionally because we've just been busy, being busy, right? And this has been a massive shocker, but I do see that out of this whole situation, we have had some good like good times that have also come of this and good movements that have come of this.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting what's happening in the world. Like it's just a whole new revolution in a way. Even technologically wise, like those who find opportunities are moving ahead, and it's just basically brought the future. I think 3 years to us, 3 years ahead, or 3 years closer. I mean, in a way,
Huh. I love
if
that.
not more.
We don't know nothing about who you are. Can you take a moment and just tell us who you are?
Okay, so I like to describe myself as a free-spirited being who loves to like meet different people and dive deeper in conversations and travel the world and explore different cultures. Um, and on a more professional level, I am a conscious living facilitator and the founder of a brand I launched recently called Epic Beings. And yeah, it's all about just empowering Generation Z, like the youth, to live life more authentically in a way that's more connected and with a sense of purpose, because I think that's been missing for a while, given the nature of our lifestyles.
It's so interesting because uh, my wife passed away 20 years ago, and
Oh,
I remarried about 7 years ago, and my beautiful wife now has two kids. One is an 18-year-old boy, and the other's a 16-year-old girl. And
nice.
in the 16-year-old girl in particular, she's brilliant. She grew up knowing she wanted to be a brain surgeon, and that's what she wants to do. She wants to cut people open, look at them, realign them, and get everything
Intense.
working right, right? And there's so many different ways that that's going to develop now with the technology the way it is, that it's not going to be the way it is.
Yeah.
But when I ask her, what are you passionate about? Are you passionate about the earth, and are you passionate about the environment? She said, I don't know. I mean, are you passionate about political choices that are, no, I don't know. They're all old and I'm not really that interested in it. And so what you're doing has such importance because it feels like that generation of people is not necessarily when I was 16, we were the boomers. And so we were already into anti-war protests. We were into, standing up for what we believed. A lot of what we see now had its origins in those moments there. And we really thought we made a change. And now we're 50 years later and we look and we say, oh my God, the same issues are right here on the table.
I
So,
agree. Like, in a way, the cycle repeats itself. And I think some things are just part of the normal age, even though this generation is far more switched on in many levels. Like, there's so much information, they have access to a whole like world of information that we never ever had. Like, you guys never had in your time anyway.
yeah,
But on the flip side, there are, I guess, first world problems in terms of, not living your truth, this pressure of fitting in all the time and seeing how you are perceived by people and society and just social worth issues and that whole like gamut of stuff. So that's where my focus is. But I agree what you're saying, like completely.
so as someone who's traveled the globe, free spirit, looking around, what are you doing? What are you doing now? What's COVID brought you?
I have still actually, like yourself, managed to maintain my sanity by talking to people online. So I've been having these virtual sessions very often. In fact, I run a few connection sessions. I think I post some on LinkedIn as well every Friday. I had one this afternoon, and it's funny because what you said about connection and just like not having the depth of conversation. That's exactly how I started my meeting today with the people I met. That is just about being present, and that's really what's not happening these days. So I basically, in a nutshell, have just been keeping myself engaged by bringing different people together and talking to them and reaching out to people from across the world myself. So I just love this whole community in a way, like community building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and why is that so important to you?
Because I thrive when I'm with people. I'm a very natural people's person. I've always loved like interacting with them and I love conversation, not just small talk, of course, but deep, meaningful conversation. And just learning from experiences, learning from people
Yeah,
with each other. And diversity is like what really is one of my biggest highlights. Like, has to be diverse.
yeah.
All age groups, all countries, all audiences,
I
no
love that.
filter in that sense.
So I was on a podcast a while back, and the guy was not the sharpest podcast host on the planet.
Okay.
But he asked me probably one of the best questions, and I love that because when we sort of keep open to the fact that people are not how we think they might be, amazing things open up.
Right.
And so he asked me, because my whole purpose is around listening and hearing people and giving people a chance to be heard. And so he said, how come that's so important to you? Did you feel you were not listened to as a child?
Yeah.
And I went, wow, that's really interesting. I was listened to, but my parents passed away when I was a kid. So
Okay.
my dad passed away when I was 13, my mom when I was 15. And so I was listened to, but I just didn't feel like I had enough time when they listened for them to be with me. Do you feel like there's
Wow.
something that happened for you that made that that is bringing this so prevalent to you in your life that makes you want that diversity, makes you want to see people of all different ages? Like what brings that to you? As was there something in your life that happened that initiated that?
That's a really good question you've asked me now, because I can't think of anything specific. I've just always, I think I really found myself when I was in, like, in terms of in the people sense, when I was in high school, because I was quite shy as a child and didn't really have very high social vibes, but I really got very engaged with people in my high school. And I think that's when I realized that I am a huge extrovert. I just love being sociable.
Wow.
But I actually am like you. I'm more of a listener, to be honest. People always say that you know all about us, but I know about you. I'm like, I just love listening. That's probably why. But yeah, I never really talk about myself unless I'm asked to. I'm just more of a natural listener, and I guess that's what people find very like inclined towards, because they can trust me, and they know that we can say whatever and vent our feelings, and she's there for us. So it's like a natural sort of click that they have with me, which is funny. um, but yeah, I've always been more of a listener. While I love people, I love meeting with them, I've just always been about let people talk and let me be the listener. But I'm not sure how that comes into being. It's
Yeah.
just the way I'm wired in a way. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So if you can, I'd love to dive into this moment where you're this very attractive, beautiful woman who is really shy in high school. Maybe you were, not like you are now, but I'm going to just assume that who you are now is who you were then. Um, will you dive into that moment where the shy girl suddenly realized she was an extrovert? Because I bet there are people listening in the audience right now to us as we're speaking that feel like feel either that they're extroverts but really shy, or shy people who are just waiting for that moment because they know that that they want to that the world out there has more for them to engage in and they want to. What was there a moment in time that happened for you where that shifted?
If I track back memory to high school, I think it's just about finding the right people who like brought the best in me in a way. And I actually started enjoying what I studied, because I really did not enjoy my school at all. The way I was taught and the way the subjects were, I was really like winging it through school, to be honest. And I actually found my passion with psychology when I took those two like subjects as a stream when I majored in them. And what I enjoyed, then I started like doing well in my class, so that also gave me some confidence in a way. And I was opening up more than I ever was through my school years since a child. And yeah, I guess it's a mix of finding your passion in a way and bringing that to light with the right people and thriving with that joy, because that really gives you a huge kick in a way. I mean, I always was good with people, but not to the extent of really being out there. Now I'm like out there. I can just go to a social setting and start a conversation with anyone, and I'll be fine. Like I just love people in a way. So yeah, it
So
comes naturally.
I guess what I want to try and dive deeper because I love that and I understand that, but I want to go underneath that. I want you to push that answer to the side. And I
Yeah.
want you to see what if there's something that's left there. Because what I'm looking for is it a matter of confidence in yourself? Is it a matter of trusting people more? Is it a matter of not worrying about being hurt? Is it a matter like what allows a shy person suddenly to trust the world enough that they come out there and go, okay, here I am, no matter what, here I am. because so many people have walls around them and are scared to death to be seen.
Right. I think when you give up the fear of being judged, that's when people start to really be themselves because, like, everyone has this fear in some way or the other of, like, how will I be perceived? Which is why public speaking is one of the world's greatest fears, more than even like an accident. Because you can talk to yourself in the mirror for hours, but the moment you have an audience, you get like, wow, how can I do this? And I have the same fear in a way
Yeah,
because we do have this fear of being judged, and that's just like genetically wired in us because of this whole fear of being outcast, which goes back to our ancestors, sapiens. But yeah, like in terms of what you're asking, I think it's really about a feeling safe, that you have someone who you can feel safe with and who in a way supports you, even if it's very subtly. And that's what gets people to like really confide and then start to open up. If you, especially if you're shy and you do not really feel comfortable in social settings or with people, you know.
yeah.
So it's quite a mix there.
I want to lob this over the net. It's sort of a long way to ask a short question. Pardon me for not being more economic in my words. But um, I've had a beautiful life where I've had the opportunity to sit with some of the richest people in the world, not in their audiences, but at their dining room tables, to meet their parents, to play on the living room floor with their kids. And we've sat together and they've been kind enough to ask me my counsel on certain things that they were doing, and even kinder to give me their counsel on certain things that I was doing.
Sure.
And I've been fortunate enough to sit on street corners with some of the poorest of the poor.
Wow.
And they've been kind enough to do the same thing. They've been kind enough to introduce me to their friends, or if family was around or came to visit, they would introduce me to family. And I've sat with them and just was with them. And the meals that we ate around the dining room tables were different. One was a loaf of bread and a bottle of wine and a piece of cheese on a cardboard box. And the other was, a 7-course meal prepared by the finest chefs in the world, which happened to be their cooks.
Right.
But none of that mattered. It didn't matter how much money they had, how big their house, or how torn their box, what border they lived behind, what color their skin, what religion they practiced, what age group they were. What I found in every single case is that people want to be loved and accepted, listened to and heard, acknowledged and validated. And when you do those things, people suddenly realize I'm seen for the first time in my life. That they're not looking at just this beautiful exterior, this old broken down man. They're looking at who I am, who we actually are. And
It's so
in
true.
and in that place there's such a trust and such a peace and such a sense of, it's really what happens oftentimes in this room, because that's what I do. I just hold the space for people to be loved and accepted, listened to and heard, acknowledged and validated. And it's sometimes what happens is you can feel the shift in that moment when people actually go from walls up to walls down. Your thoughts on that?
100%. I agree with that because ultimately our basic core need is to be loved, to be seen, to be heard, and to be understood. And unintentionally, very often we don't do that for people because I think we're caught up in our own selves for whatever reasons. And when we make that shift, consciously or unconsciously, people see that because that's what all of us are looking for at the end of the day.
Yeah,
And when they see that, everything shifts for them and for us as a community, you
yeah.
know. And I love this initiative you've taken. I think it's so profound, actually, but just like approaching people and starting these conversations. It's certainly a very profound message for everyone and the world right now. Because, I mean, have you heard of this concept called tea with strangers?
Yes. Well, I've heard of I haven't heard of tea with strangers. It seems like there's a lot of things happening with strangers. I've heard about a woman who started 100 lunches with strangers, and then another guy who I just spoke to her about coming onto my podcast too. But I spoke to someone who wants to do 500 lunches with strangers, but it's more
Wow.
sort of in a networking business uh, platform than in a sort of just friend to friend to just coming together to know each other and see.
Exactly.
But tell me about tea with strangers.
No, so what you're saying, similar initiatives in terms of just getting people together, and it could be coffee, tea, whatever, but it's called Tea with Strangers. And I think this was started by this guy called Ankit Shah. He's in America, he's based there. He did this in college just out of like randomly. There was no like clear purpose or intention, and it just blew out of proportion because people actually loved the whole vibe and the environment of just connecting with strangers and each other. And it just, for me, this just shows that how, even though these things are so simple and so fundamental, like that's what people are really craving, right? Because it's so
Yeah,
simple, yet it became like a sensation.
yeah.
It became an organization. And those are the fundamentals I think we have lost, with the years. We've just lost the basics of what it means to be connected or what it means to show up for each other.
Why do you think we've lost that?
Yeah, so much has happened. Like, I mean, on the tech side, we have all the tools to stay connected. Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, but we aren't using those tools correctly. It's just all about my life and me and what I've done, and we actually have lost our sense of connection, and we've gone too far down this whole digital rabbit hole in a way,
Yeah.
without keeping the basics with us, without keeping the essence of those things with us.
Sukun, what makes you happy?
Impact on people. That's what makes me happy.
Wow.
Creating a shift in people.
So if you were in a room by yourself, would you be unhappy?
Okay, in that sense, I would be happy if I'm listening to some music or reading a book, or having a conversation like this, if that's allowed in the room, because it is. I'm on my own right now. There's no one here, so this makes me happy. So got you right there. But I want to know about, if I can ask you, like,
Please.
I recently read about your bio with the Social Library, which is another amazing initiative
Yes.
Sakshi undertaken.
Yes.
And I read that how you gave up like all these amazing job offers to pursue your passion. So if you can just throw some light about that, and what has inspired you to be where you are today and what you're doing today.
First of all, thank you so much for asking the question because I've been in this room now over 100 times, and I don't think anybody's asked me. But and it's totally fine because I believe my place is just to listen because I talk a lot, and so you can hear me on podcasts and all that stuff. Um,
Okay.
mm, I spoke already of the impact that my parents' passing had on me. My dad passed away when I was 13. He was my hero. And I was a mini me before mini me's were even invented. We would walk down the boardwalk at Atlantic City at the beach, and I would hold his ring finger, and I was maybe 3 feet tall, and he was 6'1", and people would stop riding their bikes and take pictures of us, and or try and film us with cameras, and people would, or if they didn't have any of those things, they would just stop literally and just point at us and laugh. And I thought to my dad, I said, Dad, why are all these people looking at us? And he said to me, well, you and I are exactly the same. You're just a 3 foot version of me. We waddle the same, we look the same, our body shapes are the same, our faces are the same. And so I was really cast in his image. And so when he passed away at 13, it was, I just didn't understand it. I was away at camp, and he had told me he came in to kiss me the night before he was going away. 3 days before I went to camp, he came
God.
to say goodnight to me. And he said, I'm going to say goodnight and I'll see you on Visitor's Day at camp because I'm going to leave early in the morning. I said, come on, Dad, I'm not going to let you go out the door without saying goodbye to you. What time are you leaving? He said, Danny, I have to be out the door at 4 o'clock in the morning. Don't get up. It's okay. Let's say goodnight. Let's say goodbye now. I'll see you on Visitor's Day. I'm going to give you a big hug. I'm going to kiss you. I'm going to be here with you. I'm going to hold you. I said, there's no way I'm not getting up. I'll see you at 4 o'clock. Well, 4 o'clock came and I was still sleeping. And my dad didn't wake me up because he just wanted me to be rested.
Right.
He never made it to Visitor's Day because he passed away 2 weeks later making love to my mom of a heart attack. And so, in a world for me that had my hero taken from me, apparently randomly, with no cause or no reason or nothing I could understand, I constructed a story. And that story was, if I would have woken up to say goodbye to him, my dad would not have died three
Oh,
weeks
Jesus.
later, because I knew there was no truth to the story. But what it did is it gave me a cause and effect reality rather than a
Yep.
random world that I was scared to death to live in. Because if that could happen, what else could happen randomly? What else could happen with no cause or reason? And I know there's some cause ultimately, but as a 13-year-old kid, I had no idea what that was. And so because of that, it set in motion for me a life that was around, why does something like that happen? And in my book, The Mosaic, what I talk about is I asked the adults, where did my parents go? And they said they're in a place called heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the only important thing defined was that place called heaven. That was all that was important to me, because I just wanted to be with my mom and dad, because the unconditional love they gave me was just so big, and I had never felt that from any place before. And I just wanted that unconditional love so badly. So when I was offered the chance to run $1 billion company, to start at the bottom and work my way up, but my mom's sister had married a man who was a household name international, internationally.
Okay.
And he said, I don't have children. I don't have boys. And 50 years ago, men didn't give their businesses over to their daughters. As crazy as that sounds now, it just wasn't something that happened then. They gave them to their sons. So he said, maybe this is a really good thing, because I think this could impact our life. Let me watch you for a little while and see what happens and see if you're capable. And about a month or so later, he came up to me and he said, your life is going to change in this moment. I've been watching you, and I want you to start tomorrow. I want you to go, and I'm going to start having you clean up the offices. You're going to start pushing a broom, and I want you to naturally rise to the place where you feel, where you land. And from that place, I will mentor you to the place where it's my seat. And within 15 years, you'll be running this company.
Jesus. Wow.
And so I said to him, what a beautiful opportunity that is. And I can't thank you enough for offering that to me. But I'm just a kid. I'm 15 years old. I have no
Mm.
idea if I even want the life that you have. It sure seems attractive, but I'd like to watch you for a year and see if it's even the life that I want.
Yeah.
And so he said, we're off to a bad start. 99.9% of the people would have said, where's the broom and can I start today? And I said, just our rotten luck that I am that 0.0001. Um, but that's who I am. I can't do something just because, like, that isn't what's important to me. What's important to me is finding heaven, is finding this place where unconditional love lives. And so all the money in the world can't buy it. And what happened after a year, we went out to lunch, and I basically said to him, I don't see the heaven that I'm looking for in the offer you're giving me. So unfortunately, I have to walk away.
That is one hell of a powerful story. And just like pierces straight through your heart, like one of those. It's crazy.
Tell me what you feel when you hear that.
I feel deeply touched. I feel very reflective that it just gets me on this whole trip of, why these things happen and what the relevance is in the whole soul context. Like, why, I mean, I'm sure there's a huge relevance there. Maybe it was probably for you to do what you do today in that sense.
Yes.
I'm not sure how you see this because obviously it is a very sensitive topic. And not everyone really believes in this stuff, but I think everything happens for a reason, and we'll never understand some things in our lifetimes. Um, but everything has deeper meaning, which we half the time can't even make sense of, but they do have deeper meanings.
Yeah.
But it's painful, it's hurtful, it's annoying, it's frustrating, but I think there's some intelligence that's driving everything
Yeah,
that's just beyond a freaking comprehension. Let me just put it that way.
yeah. And I think what you're saying is so important for me to express to people and to hear, because we believe the whole purpose of the Mosaic, the book, is just to tell my story, and they're sponsoring this, so I have to mention them once in a while. But the whole importance of the book is to talk about nothing is the way we think it is. Nothing is as we perceive it to be. Nothing is as cut and dry as what we think it is. What we see in this world is really what we see in this world. But it isn't what the world is. It's what we see in the world is,
Absolutely.
right? And
Yeah.
so a lot of the work that I do and a lot of the space that I hold for people is what would happen if we, like, and I did it with you in the question you answered, right? What would happen if we slide that to the right? Because it sounds like something you've said before. What would happen if we just move that to the side? What would be there in front of you that you've never seen before? How could you see something different than what you always see? Because people answer, I have the blessing of having an autistic daughter. She says the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. And people say to me, how can you do that? She says, I mean, she'll say the same sentence like 200 times in an hour. And I said, it's really no different than I am. I say the same stories. I say the same things. I tell the same, I meet people. I tell exactly the same. And so one of my mentors said to me, as you're telling your story, switch your words around. Don't say it. Say it like you've never said it before. And
I love that.
it's so powerful.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just encourages a whole new perspective you probably haven't ever thought of before
Yeah.
because you just did not know any better way of putting that across before.
Yeah.
So interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So do you
So
feel, yeah,
go,
it's like your interest. It's like
go
me
ahead.
doing it.
You want to be a
I guess this
listener. I want you to be
conversation.
a talker, but go ahead. I'll give more to you.
Do you feel that if you think that you've had a purpose, you feel that you fulfill that, or you still have a long way to go?
Um, I don't think I have a long way to go, but I think there's still steps along my journey.
Yeah.
I'm very, very happy with the man that I am today. And
That,
it is not because of anything I've done. Contrary to what most people would say, they would pride themselves on all the hard work that it took to get them here. I think it's been just, I think I'm one of those people that's so stupid that God looks down and says, I better do something for this guy. He's never going to get it. So I'm going to just lift him up a little bit more. And so I think there's something called grace that has allowed me to have stuff that probably I shouldn't ever have seen. But because I've been so innocently stupid and I've just expected the world to take care of me because I always would take care of it, that somehow it's shown up and taken care of me. One of the things I did is after my parents passed away, I was left a small inheritance that my uncle had, but it was a small inheritance until my uncle invested it, and it became a big inheritance. And had I just left it there, I would have had millions and millions and millions of dollars today. But I gave it away to poor.
priorities. So that's where yours is,
Yeah.
clearly.
Mine was never about money. So I thought I can always make money when I need to because I have that type of personality. But there are poor people that are really suffering. Let me give them, you walk by someone who has no arms and legs and people don't even give them a quarter. They're not going to use it for alcohol. They're not going to use it. I mean, these people really need help.
Yep.
And people just walk by. So I walked by and gave them $5,000,
Wow.
right? Because I just felt like here's somebody, if this guy doesn't need money, who does? And so I gave away all the money that I had because I thought I would always have it. That was great until I hit a pothole. And I forgot that I had the ability to do that. And then I got stuck in that pothole and said, oh my God, where's money going to come from? How's that going to happen? And I started to worry about the things that people worry about. And that went on for about 5 years. I'm literally now just put my hand on the edge of that pothole and pushing myself out of it because I started to believe this new story that it was hard to have it, not easy.
Yeah. Money, right? In terms of your belief about money, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
In this particular context, like you've given away so much, how do you think the universe has given you back?
Um, I think it's given me back. It's really interesting because I'm doing work on this exactly this moment. And the woman that I'm working with is a beautiful energy worker with money. She wrote a book called Love Money, Money Loves You.
Oh,
And and it's beautiful. It's just absolutely beautiful. And I think the universe is giving me back in exactly the way that I've asked it to give me back.
I was going to say that, but I want to hear from you, so I would let you answer
Yeah.
that first. Wow. So,
And the way I've thought that it was going to happen is I always said when I gave my money away, I would always have what I needed, that God would always provide for me. The universe would always give me what I needed. But there's a whole new way of doing that. You don't always just have to scrape by and get what you need. You can
yeah,
have enough to be able to help other people do what they're doing too and live
yep.
that way. So my whole I'm 65 years old and I feel like when you said you feel like you've gotten what you
Longer way to go.
yeah there's a lot of steps still here.
Yeah.
But those steps can go like that because it's a consciousness change. And as soon as it's a frequency change, it's a
Yep.
vibration change. And when the frequency changes, the doors open. So it's not something that I have to do. I just have to allow a frequency and a consciousness. And it's not that I haven't been allowing in before.
That's cool. Really, really cool. And the fact that you say that you're happy doing what you're doing today just shows that like there's so much power in just being content with who you
Yes.
are,
Yes.
and just being like fulfilled, having lived a fulfilled life. Like nothing else matters. So, I mean, you're blessed to have been this. That's amazing.
Thank you. If you would allow me, I want to move you back into the place where you're less comfortable, which is
Yes.
speaking about yourself.
Oh, yes. Let's come back to that.
Okay. But I want you to see, especially for the audience, I want you to see how intoxicatingly beautiful Sukun's questions are and how easy it is for anybody in the course of a conversation to just allow the conversation to permit her to be the listener that she feels more comfortable being than the speaker that she has an opportunity to be. And she's not scared to speak. You can see she has strength in what she's saying. She knows what she's saying. But that we go back into our little patterns and even in given the opportunity to have this platform for her to be able to say what she feels, she wants to be a listener still. And how beautiful that is and how easy it is to just let that happen. But I really want to invite her to come out of her comfort zone a little and just see what's there. Is that okay with you?
No. I just can't help my curiosity, but let's go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay. Um, what are you most curious about in yourself?
about myself. I'm always into this whole thing of self-awareness and self-reflection. So why I'm wired the way I am, because I think the same about people. Why are we wired the way we are? So I keep on doing these like just reflective questions about myself and why I act and think the way I do. And yeah, it just goes on from this. That's one of my biggest things about being curious about people and myself in general.
So again, and I want to invite the listener in, and you, Sukun, you tell me if I'm off base here, but I just want to share what I'm feeling.
Hmm.
In the giver's heart of Sukun, how much she's concerned about the world and being there for the world, even in a question of what are you curious about
God.
yourself? She can't she can't help herself to include other people in that. Are you with me?
Yes, I am. I'm just love how this keeps coming back to the same. Okay, yeah, I get it.
And so what I would like to know is, and it really comes back to what makes you happy again. Without,
Giving.
okay, do you give to yourself in the same way you give to others?
I've come a long way in that. I didn't ever love myself. I mean, I didn't even know what self-love really means. I thought it was like self-obsession, but now I know that's a different story altogether. And I just, yeah, now I do love myself more than I ever have in my life.
Okay, more than you ever have. That could be, 10% is way more than 0%, or it could be 90% is way more than, where on that beautiful scale,
On the higher end of the scale, like
on the higher end
85,
of the
90%, yeah.
fabulous.
Yeah.
What's keeping you from going to 86%?
Um, this is a really tricky question, Aman. Put me on the spot by asking that. I guess that's what you're best at. What would I think just having a really high sense of accomplishment. I know that's all about like doing and falling in the trap of doing and achieving and stuff, but right now I see myself that I just feel better about myself once I do this in a way. Um,
So
yeah.
let me jump in there because that's so meaty, and I bet there are so many people listening that completely relate to that. And yet, like, I feel you.
Yeah.
That feels like a head answer, not a heart answer. And that feels like the answer of your heart wouldn't even come close to saying that, because the heart answer that you want to give. And do you feel a shift that just happened right there when you just did that?
Right. I did.
Did you feel that?
Yeah.
Um, so part of what, and I don't mean to go all psychoanalytical here, and you can just say shut the heck up, and we can go on to the next question. But some of what the walls that we put up around ourselves do is they protect us from actually feeling what it is we really feel by coming up with very well constructed answers that fit a very intellectual program that makes sense to everybody. And most people say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, of course. But I'm not interested in that person because I know you more than that just from sitting with you a little bit. And I really want to know what prevents you from going into that beautiful, massive heart that you have that really wants to just really love and really be loved and really come across from that place of just this beautiful love that you have the power to bring to this world. Why is that overtaken by this incredibly brilliant mind that you have that's capable of answering questions that make most people feel loved and felt, but is not really the love of the heart? Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel you, I hear you. Like, I mean, the mind always does take over by instinct, and sometimes it's just about trusting and going with your heart and feeling it. So to answer your question about what's stopping me from feeling tapping into my heart completely, is our question?
Yeah, or all I, you can go completely. All I really wanted was from 85 to 86, because if you can open it up now, you're comfortable at the 85 level. And what I spoke to someone on in one of these beautiful room conversations, I spoke to someone about growing our edges and how easy it is to grow our edges and then get comfortable at the edge that we've grown to and just build a house there
Staying there, yeah.
and
Right.
forget that we're still growing our edges.
Yeah.
What would it take to grow your edge?
I think by just being more and not focusing on so much of the doing, but just being, and yeah, that's all I can say right now.
Love it. Do
Simple
you know what an
words.
overhead projector is? Have you ever heard of that
Yes,
term? You do?
yes,
Okay. I'm an old guy, so the images that I
yes.
use are old. I want you to take what you just said, which is what's such a beautiful statement, by focusing on just being more and not doing as much. And I want you to put that plastic sheet on the overhead projector that portrays onto the wall. And then I want to ask you about a statement that you said, I think if I achieve more, I will feel more comfortable and I'll be able to open myself up more and put that sheet on top of it. Tell me what you see on the wall in front of you.
Then I'm happy going in the moment, happy going with the flow, which is my natural way of being. If I discount the sheet, if I consider the sheet that's discounting my think of doing, right? That was what you tried to portray, yeah.
Yeah,
Then I'm just happy and going with the flow.
I love that. What would change for you if you went with that flow?
I guess like I said, I go with the flow anyway. It's just trusting the process more because I do talk about this all the time, but it's also about applying to yourself when you trust the process.
Yeah,
And yeah, just doing more of what I do in terms of going with the flow. I mean, it's conflicting sometimes because I have days where I'm like, I'm supposed to be doing so much more and stop procrastinating and stop being lazy and doing this and doing that. But there are days I'm like, you know, I'm okay where I am. I trust the process. So like human beings are complex. There's no black and white about us. We're all very gray. So we have very conflicting thoughts and feelings, which is like a part of how we are. So
yeah.
I just have both the feeling at the same time.
So I'm going to let it sit there, but I would love to have more conversation with you around it because um, what I hear is that your heart is crying out to you to actually let it be heard more, to let it take the dominant role in your life over your head. And your head is so powerful and so brilliant and so smart that you're able to put an intellectual thought into what people would think is a feeling, but it's a thought about a feeling rather than a feeling. Does that make sense to you? I'm assuming from your laugh that something resonated there. What
Yeah, I
resonated?
like the way you put that across. Very articulate.
Yeah. And you have such potential. Like, I felt you before we even spoke. That wasn't your intellect. I felt you. That was your heart. And the power of your heart is much bigger than the power of your mind.
Wow, that means a lot. Thank you for putting it out like that. Very grateful for that.
My pleasure. If achievement wasn't important to you, what would you do?
Explore, just be in this whole exploratory mode of life. See what comes of it. See what has to offer and see what I have to like learn from, I guess. Learning is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does
I,
that make sense?
yeah, yeah. It sort of. I mean, everything with you, I would love. We were limited by the amount of time we have together,
Right,
but I
yeah.
would love to be unlimited by the amount of time we have to be together because I think there is we're stepping into the puddles of what is a massive ocean beneath, and I would love to enter into that ocean with you because I think the ocean is where um, I feel you have so much power in the ocean, and yet most people are comfortable in the puddle of what they step in with
Boy, do you write poems as well?
you. Well,
You
not,
should. You probably should.
okay. Well, it's only poetic if it makes sense.
It does, which is why I'm saying it.
Yes,
It's
thank you.
beautiful that you put
Thank
that
you.
across.
Well, the
Like no
mosaic,
one's ever said it like that to me ever in my life. No one.
really.
So
Well, I have that rare privilege of being that person for a lot of people because I just see the world differently than most people.
yeah.
And I feel like I'm trying to use images that you can feel. as opposed to just images that you can think about. And because the you have big work to do in this world. It's not going to come from your head, though, which is where you think it will come from.
No, it's a combination, but heart. It's this work is very obvious. This work is very heart led, completely heart led.
Heart led. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yes, in terms of the how and the when and the strategy, that of course involves the mind, like any other work that one does. But everything I'm doing right now and I'm inspired by is completely heart led.
Good.
Yeah. Oh boy, what's coming up now? I just did a
Well,
cheeky smile of yours, Daniel. Like, what's gonna come now? I can see you too, by the way, just so you know.
believe me, I know you can. And that's why I've spent the time, like I've gone totally off script with this whole thing because
Oh,
normally I do a lightning round and normally I ask it a whole bunch of different questions. But there's
okay.
something that feels really important here. And I don't want to just let a script take me away from what's really important.
I'm
Um,
glad.
and I'm going to lob something over the net to you.
Oh, sorry, over there?
I'm going to lob something over the net like a tennis ball, like we're playing in a game of tennis.
Okay.
And you can just hit it over the fence. You can just let it go. You can hit it back to me however you feel. It's not, I'm not expecting any sort of answer or result or anything from it.
Sure.
Because of the attunement, I would like to see how we could play together in general to do stranger conversations of some sort or another. I'd like to know more about what you're doing. I'd like to know more about what motivates this heart-led work that you feel. And if there's a way we can help each other to grow this, because the shift is so small. It's 2 millimeters of the shift. It's barely noticeable in this moment. You won't even notice it. But what I'm already initiating, I hope in you, is a 2 millimeter shift. That if you follow that and continue to go in that direction, the place you'll end up with will be remarkably different than where you would go if you kept going before our conversation.
Wow.
And it's not because I have something for you that I want to give you. It's because I feel in you that that's what you're asking. And not many people have the courage to come up to a perfect stranger like yourself and say what they actually feel. But I feel greatness in you. And I know you feel that too.
100%.
And that greatness needs just a very small refinement. Because it's your heart that makes you great. And your mind is so brilliant that you would tend to think that it's your mind that makes you great. But you even call your work a heart-led work. And then you rationalize, well, we got to do the planning, you got to do this to bring your mind down, right? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
But there's something to what you have that this world desperately needs right now. And
Wow,
that,
that's
and that's what I want to invite you to play in. To like slide yourself out of the equation for me. And just say, what is this world really bringing me to in this
authentic connection.
moment? Yeah. So if you are a heart-led person that's operating from your mind, is that an authentic connection?
Probably not.
Yeah. And it's not as black. You see, I'm black and white. My shirt's black, the wall's white, my book's black and white. And I say things in black and white terms only to make the case larger. but you are an authentic person. There's not anything about you that's not authentic. The 2 millimeter shift brings you to true authenticity because it's hard to be there with your heart open. We
Yeah,
both
it is. I mean, picking up from what you've just said, like there are parts of my life even now that I'm still getting away how to like express that, or if I need to even talk about that into others as a part of my work, because it involves other people, which I haven't got the permission to share. I haven't even asked if I have to share this stuff.
yeah
So I mean, it plays a very strong role on why I'm doing what I'm doing, but I have not been able to share exactly what will inspire this whole work. So, what you're saying completely makes sense. And I think at one point I will find the courage to really, really speak and articulate my story the way it is.
yeah
I'm not saying I mislead people or I say something
I
I'm not.
understand.
I say exactly what I am, but there are parts I haven't yet said or shared about myself
Yeah,
because it involves other people as well.
yeah.
So that is where I'm struggling with. That is where my authenticity is at stake in a way.
So image.
Let's do
Most
this.
most people swim in the water. You've
Yeah.
put on a snorkel, so
Yeah.
you see a little more than most people. But it's probably time for you to put on a scuba tank and to go a little bit deeper and go into the place where you feel you're giving what literally is the world's asking you to give. And for those who feel it, they feel it. For those who don't feel it, they don't feel it. That's okay. Your job isn't to change the world. Your job is to just show up to the world.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Because when you show up, those people that are drawn to how you show up will come to you. Just like you'll come to the people you're drawn to show up. And that is going to take you shifting a little bit. There's something, well, I don't want to get into it here, but we can have separate conversations.
We can, absolutely. And we will.
Okay.
We must, I suggest.
I like that. I would like that. Let me ask you a couple questions from the lightning round just so I feel okay. Are you still okay with time?
I'm okay.
Okay.
If you have to, like, yeah, sure, go ahead.
No, we'll go maybe 5 or 10 more minutes maximum. Because we've answered a lot of them without even,
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. If that was what you're looking for the
yeah,
session, we have
totally.
done quite a bit.
Let me just ask you about trust.
Yeah, let's do this.
Is trust easy for you or hard for you?
Is trust easy for
Is
hard for me?
trust easy for you to do? Do you trust easily or is it hard for you to do?
I trust easily because I have a sense, so I know who to trust, you know? If that makes sense, because I'm aware when people are not, in the right mind or the right space, so I don't even go that route, but I do know who to trust. That much sense I have. So trust in a way in that sense is easy for me.
So let me dive a little deeper if I can.
Yeah.
Do you trust in your ability to take people that you don't trust to a place of trust?
Wow. I actually do because a lot of my passion is about creating a higher sense of self-awareness in people, in myself, in people. And I just feel that whoever people who act dodgy or funny or whatever, it's because of obviously a whole lot of reasons. But one is, of course, their conditioning and the stories they're stuck in that's keeping them from their higher authentic self.
Yeah,
So through my work, I want to get them to tap into them being a better version of themselves, not just discounting them by saying they're not worth my time, because those people are worth my time.
beautiful.
So yeah,
So go back to the first question of trust. That you have
yeah.
an instinct that tells you who to trust and who not to trust. And tell me what that looks like right now.
So I think I trust people. I trust them to this extent that I trust their ability to be trustworthy. But if they're the way they are right now, I won't trust them with my stuff, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. So it's funny. I was going to tell you a story about my daughter, and my daughter just called. So,
Oh my God. Wow, that happens all the time. Please take your call if you have to.
so I may have to take it, and I may um, just want to share this with you another time.
Sure,
But
sure. Let's do it.
I want to say for all the people that are listening, and for you, Sukun, thank you so much for coming here
Thank
and
you.
being with me. And thank you for being so open and honest. And thank you for the shift that happened somewhere along the line that allowed you to be another version of yourself, not any more real or less real, but just another version. And I want the listeners to see that shift and to feel that shift, because that place where we go from ourselves to ourselves is a huge shift. Doesn't seem
Um,
like much in the moment, but it's a huge shift. And for Sukun to just be here and showcase that for us as willingly and beautifully as she did, I want to just thank you for doing that. And I want to thank you for being here and showing up the way you did.
Thank you so much for the opportunity and for reaching out to me in the first place and for doing what you do and for being who you are. Like, thank you for everything.
My absolute honor. For those of you who listen to the show, I want to thank you for listening. The way things spread is when you like something, you, you tell friends, you tell people you like about it. So when we like this, we tell people we like. So that way we share what we like with the people we like and give them the opportunity to see if they like it or not too. And that's how a movement starts. That's how things start. That's how people get interested. If there are those of you out there that want to have a conversation, please just get in touch with me. We're going to find out more. I'm going to list Sukun's work in the show notes if you feel drawn to work with her and be a part of the work that she's doing. I can't encourage you highly enough to do it. Um, the best thing that could happen is if two people come into a room as strangers and the people watching the conversation don't feel like strangers anymore and contact each other and have friendships and work together and do things together, because when we live a world in the world as strangers, the world is a strange place. But when we live in the world of friends, the world is a friendly place. And I want to invite you to, each of you, to go up to someone you don't know and take the challenge, either online or in person, and just sit with them and ask them how they're doing. You might be surprised what you find. Again, Sukun, thank you for coming. Is there any one thing you want to say just before we go?
To you, just thank you for this platform for having me, and to people, just go out there, play full out. The world's full of adventure experiences and lots of interesting people. So don't hold back from meeting those people.
Love it. Until the next stranger comes into the room, guys, girls, women, men, aliens, whatever the heck you want to call yourself, it, it's no longer time to be strangers. Let's make this world into a friendly place by befriending the world one person at a time. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, and become friends. Ciao.